A lot of our mothers raising these children on their own, they're getting tired. If you're a mother and you're raising a son and the school is on your back, about ADHD on your back, about special education, what are you going to do? You don't know no better. You're raising these children on your own, no help. You're going to give in. I can't blame her. She's caving into the pressure of being a single mom. That's where the community comes in, because we keep trying to blame the single mother for what's going on with the children. How can the mother be what's wrong with the community is what's wrong? Yes. Where's the black church? Yes. The black church ain't doing nothing when it comes to the war against our children. Where's the black politicians? Where's the black business owners? Where's all the so-called cultural organizations? You understand? So we got to look at the failure of the community to protect its children and protect its women. You don't get to normal mental health. You don't get mental health until you have a community that is functional and adaptive. We are maladaptive and dysfunctional. Part of that is white supremacy, but the other part is black laziness, black complicity, black inertia, a lack of black initiative. And even in the conscious community, we have a big issue because everybody just wants to learn and study the information, but that's not going to save us. It's necessary. We need knowledge itself. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. When do we start building the institutions? We want to read all the books, but we don't want to build no schools. We want to go to Kemet every year, but we don't want to build no hospitals. We want to do Kwanzaa. We want to do the festivals, but where are the processes, the systems, and the institutions that our people need in order to raise themselves up?
So I want to talk to you about the entertainment industry. This is one area that's got our youth trapped. What are your opinions on that?
Here's the thing. The reason why so many black male youth want to be athletes and entertainers, two reasons. Number one, they don't have enough role models in their everyday life that are not athletes and entertainers. If you come from the ghetto, from the hood, the average successful black male you see is an athlete or an entertainer. When he becomes a doctor, a lawyer, psychologist, educator, he moves out the black community. So our boys don't have everyday black male professionals to admire and emulate. The only thing they see is the athlete and the entertainer. So that's one reason. So we got to look at the black professional males who are vacating the hood, leaving these boys with the opinion that the only thing I can be is a basketball player, football player, or a rap star. So that's number one, our fault. Number two is the system. Our boys are deliberately undereducated, miseducated, psychiatrically emasculated, special educated, juvenile incarcerated, prematurely exterminated. So when you go through the white man's educational system, he works to disable you. He works to kick you out. He works to put you out. So if I'm a black boy and I don't like the way I'm being treated in school, I'm going to drop out. If I'm a black man and I don't like the way I'm being treated working on my master's or my doctorate degree, I'm going to quit. So it's not that the black boy doesn't want to do better. It's not that black men don't want better. It's the racism that you have to deal with. Take me. I went to a white medical college for my doctorate degree in Philadelphia. The chair of the department was an Italian. The chair of the clinical program was a Jew. The director of training was Jewish. The director of the Center for Brief Therapy, she was a Catholic. The guy who had to oversee my therapy trials, to evaluate how I was doing in therapy, he was an Anglo-Saxon who found out who I was, who tried to kick me out the program. They tried to separate me from the program because of who I was. You understand? So if it wasn't in me to win it, I would have quit, because they had disabled so many other black men. They were calling me, Dr. Umar, I need to talk to you. They kicked me out. They kicked me out. You understand? So it's hard for a black male to make it with all the racism that he faces. Here's my thing. Why do our children even have to try to survive in a white reality? Why are we putting that on them to go to college and try to get a job with white folk? Why they got to go to college at all with white folk? Why we don't have our own institutions, our own economic reality, our own political system, our own economic order? Our kids should not be told, go to college, learn from these white people, and then they're going to give you a piece of paper and then try to go and get a job with the same white folks. That's not fair, because them white folks are going to look out for white kids first. Look at the unemployment. Half the black men are unemployed. New York City, half the black men are unemployed. Toronto, Canada, half the black men are unemployed. Let's go to Jamaica in the Caribbean, half the black men are unemployed. Look, miseducation and economic destabilization, that's what creates poverty, that's what creates crime, and that's what creates all these mental problems that we're dealing with.
So, Dr. Umar, we know the problems that penetrates our community. Now, how do we exterminate this? By taking our community to become unified. I mean, we know the struggles. So how do we implement now?
Unity is not a simple thing, especially with oppressed people. The problem with oppressed people is that oppressed people don't respect the opinions of other oppressed people. That's our contradiction. We in the same condition. And because we in the same condition, your opinion don't mean anything to me. You understand? So when we come together to solve a problem, it always turns into fighting, factionalism. Because even though I know we need to work together, I don't want to listen to you because you ain't no better than I am. You see that? So the post-traumatic slavery disease is at the heart of any attempt to bring black folk together. There's something else we got to understand. We assume that black people have a problem with white supremacy. We assume that black people want to get rid of white racism. That's an assumption you cannot make. If you study our history, what do you find? It's not the racism that black people have a problem with. We've been conditioned to accept the white man as Lord. So we don't have a problem with him being in control. Do you know what our problem is? We have a problem with the position he's given us in relation to the power structure. So the average brother or sister who's fighting in the revolutionary movement ain't fighting against white supremacy. They're fighting to improve their position under white supremacy. So, for example, in the 1960s, during the Black Power movement, they often say that the brothers went in with a fist into the government. Yes. They came out with a job. When they came out with the job, a lot of them gave up the revolution. You understand? A lot of them became politicians. They became preachers. So did you really have a problem with the racism? No. You just had a problem with how you were positioned under the racism. So we got to make sure we pick the people who are serious about overcoming the oppression, because a lot of us are not, even the revolutionaries. Talk is one thing. Culture is one thing. Knowledge itself is one thing. Having the courage to speak truth to power, willing to sacrifice life, limb, and money in order to improve your situation, that's something totally different. You understand?
I understand.
And the last thing I would say to that is the children are the solution, not the problem. Here's the problem. Baltimore, Ferguson highlighted something. I was in Baltimore right after the riots. I had a town hall. We have an intergenerational divide that is not just about age. We do have a youth elder thing, yes, but that's not the issue. Not the you know what the primary issue? You have a courage divide. In other words, the children are willing to go to jail. The children are willing to stand up to the system. The children are willing to die for freedom, but the adults are not. When you looked at Baltimore, they told our brothers, stop rioting, and it wasn't a riot, it was a rebellion, but they said, stop rioting, go home. They didn't say we're going to do anything about the police brutality. They didn't say we're going to do anything about the schools. We're not going to do nothing about the racism in Baltimore that has the white folk getting the biggest share of the economic pie in Baltimore. That Baltimore rebellion was breathing for years. That was just the catalyst. But my point is, the children were in the street. The adults were afraid. The adults wanted no part of it. I have a job. I have a retirement. I have a car. I have a house. I know they're wrong, but I'm not going to get involved. So we got an issue where the children are fighting without the support of the adults because the adults are scared of white people and the children are not.
Systematic oppression. So thank you so much for that opinion. I mean, what do you think about tribal segregation? I mean, in our community, in our African communities, we also have that tribal segregation. That's all. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to garveyism. The philosophy of race first. If we put the race first, these other issues don't count. Light skin, dark skin don't matter when you Pan-African. Muslim, Christian don't matter when you Pan-African. Rich, poor don't matter when you Pan-African. Jamaican, Philadelphian, Black, British don't matter when you Pan-African. So my thing is, go back to garveyism. Go back to the foundation. Put the race first, put the religion second, put all the fraternity second, and then we come together under who we are, our shared collective racial history. That's what makes us. We came out of our mothers as Africans. We chose to be Christian. We chose to be Muslim. We chose to be Black, British, Black, English. That's superficial. That ain't skin deep. It's a label. But being African goes to the DNA. Being African is in a chromosome. Being African is in the blood. So we say go to race first, and you cut all that out.
Fantastic. Last but not least, I'm not going to keep you long because I know people are waiting for you. What message would you like to give to the youth out there?
Here's the thing I would like to say to the youth. Rebellion, violent or nonviolent, is a necessary first stage to any serious push to change one's reality. You've never seen any group in world history get anything without pushing back against the system of oppression. There's no such thing as changing anything without some form of rebellion, violent or nonviolent. So I want the youth to know that they're not wrong with what they did. They're not wrong, okay? Just like y'all had the rebellion here a couple years ago based on the same situation. Police murder. You see, that is necessary. And we have to stop telling the children it's not because we scared to go to jail. It's necessary. You see. But I want the youth to understand that after you tear down, after you push, you have to construct and build something. So my thing is, make sure you're planning the construction after you've taken care of the destruction. Because if all you're going to do is tear down and you're not going to replace anything, at the end, you're a reactionary. You're not being proactionary. They also need to recognize that all great African men and women throughout history did three things. They studied, they struggled, and they disseminated information. They studied. You got to be knowledgeable. They struggled. They fought back against the system and defended their people, and they disseminated information. They made sure they educated other people. So the youth have to make sure they're doing those things. The study group, we got to bring the study group back. The think tank, we got to bring the think tanks back. The hard copy newspapers and magazines, that was a vehicle for intellectual revolutionary thought. We got to bring that back because that produces collective consciousness. But the adults have to help the youth, stop condemning the youth, and stop judging the youth because you scared of white folks and they not.